Good Tuesday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns getting ready to face the Bengals this Sunday at 1 o'clock. But we have some developing news for the Guardians from baseball's winter meetings. Guardians need a middle-of-the-order bat, and it appears they will get one. Josh Bell has reportedly agreed to a 2-year, $33 million deal with the Guardians. A first baseman DH with the Nationals and the Padres. Last year hit 266, 17 home runs, 71 RBIs. Keep in mind that was with an offensively challenged Nationals team in Washington for most of the year. He also won the Silver Slugger Award as the best designated hitter in baseball. Again, the Guardians' 2-year deal with Josh Bell, first baseman DH. A much-needed bat in the middle of the lineup. Now, on to football and the Browns. Getting ready to face the Bengals. Deshaun Watson's debut, not what anybody really wanted, but Watson talked in the postgame about the improvement from week 1 to week 2.
That's the rule of the game, is just try to improve each and every week. Next week, I definitely need to be better. I will be better. The team will be better. And the goal is to be 1-0. I'm not sure how the outcome of the game is going to be, or what is going to take place, or what the defense is going to do, or different situations of the game. I can't really control that until that play happens. But that's the ultimate of the goal. We get on, celebrate, get on the plane, get back to Cleveland, and once we get back, we have to turn the page and watch the film, fix the mistakes, and then just get ready for Cincinnati.
Tony?
Deshaun, on Thursday you said you didn't know how rusty you would be until you got to this game. So now that it's over, were you surprised you were that rusty, or did you really deep down expect it?
I just say I felt every single one of those 700 days, honestly. I said however long I've been out, I felt every single one of those days. So getting back in shape and everything was definitely needed to feel that today.
With that, let's welcome in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Mary Kay, Players' Day off today, so, obviously that's not what Deshaun or anybody from the Browns wanted to see. They won the game, important thing. Do you expect it to be a gradual, getting better, or is it something that you think might just click and, the speed of the game becomes what he expected it to be or what he was used to it being?
Well, I think it's going to depend on what defenses do to him and how they decide to play him. I mean, it could go a lot better. And I wrote a column yesterday outlining about 6 reasons why I think it could go better for him in Cincinnati. However, there's a world in which it might not look good again because they will tear a page out of the playbook of the Houston Texans, and they'll do some of the things that Lovie Smith did. They tried to give him different looks up front. They tried to provide different coverages, confuse him a little bit pre-snap and things like that. So, so if those kinds of things happen in Cincinnati and he still doesn't really have all that timing down yet with his offense, then I suppose it could still be a little bit challenging for him. We're just going to have to see how it goes.
And we'll get to that. We'll get back to that article that you wrote about that in a minute. This is also kind of interesting. So these are the splits when kept clean and under pressure. Cody Suick tweets this out, the analytics thing. So clean, 58.3% of his dropbacks, 9 of 13, 94. You see the Pro Football Focus grade. Pressure, 41.7% of the dropbacks, 3 of 9, 37, 30.8 Pro Football Focus grade. And Mary Kay, that's not a surprise. The thing that you can't simulate is that pressure, and those are the things that you want him to get back to normal kind of feeling, operating under.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've just got to get out there and you've got to do it, and you've got to have the right protection up front. Everybody's got to be on point that way. But, those guys in Cincinnati have Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. They've got a good defense. They've got a good defensive front. It's going to be a high-intensity, high-stakes game, and they're going to do everything they possibly can to bring that pressure, and they're going to do everything that they can to cross up Deshaun and make sure he feels like he's playing in like his second preseason game or something like that. So I think that it's going to be tough once again, and the Browns are going to have to come up with some kind of a game plan that Deshaun can feel comfortable with, something that he can feel confident in, and then the blocking schemes, the protections are going to have to be really good.
You mentioned the article that you wrote. Take us a little bit deeper dive into what you thought as far as why it could potentially go better in the second game back.
Well, the number one reason probably, and I put it last, is the fact that the Houston game is out of the way. He had so much on his plate in Houston. There were, the accusers were there. Cal McNair's wife, Hannah, the owner of the Texans, turned his back on him in pregame. He had all kinds of family and friends, and he had agents and marketing people. And I mean, he just had everybody there with him. And it was just a lot. It was a lot of emotions. He was coming out of, the different tunnel. And I think it hit him like a ton of bricks. In addition to not playing for 700 days, having his first game back be there in Houston, where all of the turmoil took place, all of the allegations took place. I just think it was a lot. So in my mind, that's probably the number one reason why he might have less on his mind this game. Houston's over with.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's more of a normal week. There's an entire, you go through the game when you played, you go through the game film and you kind of make the adjustments, and then you get on to game planning. So it's more of a normal type of week for him as a starting quarterback. This might help as well. So David Njoku on his Instagram today, back to regularly scheduled programming, indicating that there's a pretty good chance that David Njoku, who missed that game, would be back. And I know it's another new facet and timing has to be worked on. Deshaun Watson's awfully good with talented tight ends, or at least he has been thus far in his career.
Yeah, that was another one of the 6 things that I put in my column, is that David Njoku is expected back for this game. And David really is playing at a Pro Bowl clip this season. And that's in the passing game in terms of just his receiving ability, but also his blocking ability. He's just been absolutely tremendous. And Deshaun is going to be able to use plenty of both of those things. Blitz pickup, run blocking, anything, you name it. David's going to help out in that regard. And then think about the fact that if he did not catch that pass against the Bucs with 32 seconds left, that spectacular one-handed grab that he made there in the back of the end zone, they don't win that game. And right now, we're not even talking about the Browns having a chance. So when you've got a guy like that out there on the field, it makes a tremendous difference. And right now, Deshaun needs all the help that he can get.
How important was it for the Browns, do you think, to get an idea, you kind of alluded to it, of how teams are going to try to defend this offense with Deshaun Watson as a quarterback? So, in other words, they had no idea how anybody was going to try to defend them. They have at least an idea. And then the other thing is, do you think Kevin Stefanski got a feel of some things that he wants to add to the playbook and some things that he wants to take out of the playbook with one game of Deshaun Watson as a starting quarterback?
No one knew how rusty Deshaun was going to be. So therefore, in the second half of that game, they really had to dial back the pass and go more to the run. I think now they recognize that it's going to take some time for him to come back, and that there is plenty of rust, and that it wasn't like riding a bike and just putting his feet on the pedals. So I do think that Kevin Stefanski now has a really good idea of what to expect from Deshaun, what he's capable of, what he's not, what his timing is like with his receivers. And, I think he'll call a better game for him and be more equipped for that. And then also, they had some receiver adversity in that game early on, and they had to change things up. And now heading into it, they'll have a better idea, I think, of, you got to have Michael Woods active. You're probably going to have to call somebody up from the practice squad. Anthony Schwartz has a concussion. David Bell has a thumb injury. So now they know they're going to have to work around those things.
Do you think Kevin Stefanski left some things out of the playbook intentionally because it is the Bengals, it is the Ravens? Those are teams that are really familiar with the Browns as they're familiar with those teams.
Yeah, I think so. You always want to have some new wrinkles for those division opponents in those enormous games that you're going to be playing. And the Browns still believe they have something to play for. I mean, to a man, you talk to them, and until someone knocks on their door and tells them that they are completely out of this thing, they are proceeding as though they have a chance. So they're going to give it their all this football game. And I do think that they probably will pull some things out of their bag of tricks, and they probably left some things to the imagination.
All right, before we go to break, you alluded to it. Deshaun Watson, first game back. It's in Houston where he played. He talked about that post-game.
It's been a long road, honestly. It's just kind of from, being traded. Like I mentioned before, Houston is still part of me. It's part of my legacy. I got drafted here. We went through a lot of ups and downs with this organization. And, being traded was tough, but, it was a business decision, and it had to happen. So leading to that, and then being my first game back here in Houston was tough. Walking into the stadium, on the opposite side of the stadium and locker room, it was different because I know exactly how those guys, get ready for games and how they do the pregame, the talk and everything. So it was a lot of emotion, a lot of just kind of, just trying to keep everything in, knowing a lot of guys that's on that defense and on that offense. So, it was tough, but at the same time, it was very exciting to be able to just get my feet wet and just be able to just run around and take some hits and, just see everything kind of happen full speed.
And Mary Kay, a lot of times people tend to forget these are humans, so there is an emotional side of it, and hopefully week 2 is significantly better than week 1. The Browns need it to be.
Yeah, they definitely need it to be. There's no question about it. And as I mentioned, I think that that kind of took a lot out of him. I really do. And how would it not? How would it not to know that you've got Tony Busby there with at least 10 of your accusers? There were signs in the stands. There were booing. There were boos. There were people holding up T-shirts that said Predator. I mean, there was a lot coming at him, and it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how tough-minded you are, that is going to get to you. So those are some of the reasons why I think, he might do a little bit better. But once again, remember, this is a high-stakes football game that he's going to be playing in. It's the first time he's going to be playing against an AFC North opponent when he's a member of the Cleveland Browns. And there's a certain intensity in this division. There's a certain chippiness, a physicality, a blue-collar mentality that he will soon find out. Now, he's been a part of huge games like that before, but, I think he's going to, feel what this is really all about for the first time. And good for him that he has a game under his belt. I think that will help. But, the Bengals, they know they have to bring their A game. They are in a dogfight for the division race with the Ravens right now, both at 8-4. And they know that they can't afford to lose this game and fall to 1-4 in the division. I mean, they know that the Browns have their number. So they're going to pull out all the stops, and Joe Burrow is going to have his game face on.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. Turn our attention to the defense. Defense and special teams played really well against the Texans, and the Browns needed it. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. In the Buccaneers game and again against Texans, the defense came through and played pretty well. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah talked about if he feels the defense is starting to get things rolling again.
You guys can see, what progress we're starting to make, stopping the run a little bit more, being very, having a high intent to be able to take away the ball, and just wanting to communicate more, wanting to be around the guys more, wanting to be together more, wanting to stop the offense, to have that pride and have that Cleveland on your chest and really represent it. So we're getting into the flow. I wouldn't say that we're there yet. I wouldn't even say that we're close yet. I think we're just getting started. And as time goes, you'll see things start to continue to progress.
And Mary Kay, when you talk about the Bengals, it's a team, the Browns have defended very well, and they're kind of built to match up with them because they do have guys that can cover the 3 wide receivers that are problematic for most teams.
Yeah, and right now the Browns are they're pretty much full strength in the back end. Denzel is back from his concussion. Greg Newsome is back from his concussion. Martin Emerson has been playing very, very well, and so they're ready to roll back there. JJ3 came up with an interception. We saw Grant Delpit making some plays. So they're coming around in the secondary right at the right time, and they're very, very confident when they play Joe Burrow and these receivers, even if Jamar Chase is back.
Well, one of the guys that will have a bigger role is Tony Fields. Let's take a look. Tony Fields had the pick 6, and then he goes to throw the ball to his dad in the crowd, and that is his dad diving for the ball and kind of body surfing. He does end up getting the ball, and there you see his dad and wearing Tony's number, and he shows it and gets a little bit of a hand in Texas after going down and getting the ball after Tony Fields' pick 6. And Tony Fields alludes to that Browns fan is my pops, Tony Fields Sr. Mary Kay, I show that because with the injury to Sione Takitaki, you're now down Anthony Walker, Jacob Phillips, Sione Takitaki. Tony Fields played really well, and he's going to need to continue doing that.
Yeah, he really will. I mean, Sione Takitaki is the 3rd Browns middle linebacker lost for the season. And absolutely, this has been just a Bermuda Triangle for Browns linebackers at that spot. But you need guys like Tony Fields to step up and make plays. And he did something that Miles has been clamoring for all season long, and that is get those takeaways. And he was involved in 3 of them. And, it just made a huge difference in the game. Of course, he had the pick 6, and it was just a great game by him. And he kind of put himself on the map, and I think you'll be seeing more of him.
Yeah, and it's a guy that has been banged up and hadn't been able to get on the field because of various injuries. You mentioned the pick 6. They had a couple of defensive touchdowns, the punt return, 4 turnovers, and the 2 defensive touchdowns, special teams touchdown. Those things usually come in bunches. Let's knock on whatever and hope the bunches are coming again because they're going to need them the next 2 games too.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, these are going to be big games. We don't know yet if Lamar Jackson is going to be able to play. So I guess they just have to take things 1 week at a time with that. But Joe Burrow is going to be ready for this team. And that, again, he wants to get that monkey off his back. It's actually hard to believe that he is 0-4 against the Browns. And they've got that 32-13 loss on Halloween night to avenge. And they're going to be loaded for bear. And not too sure about Joe Mixon yet, but this is going to be a big game for them. Again, they're trying to win the AFC North. They're trying to make sure they win as many games as they can. And as Joe Burrow observed the other day, he said, we know how to win these games in December.
Yeah, and last year they certainly did. This time of the year, this is when they put it together. Greg Newsome, another young guy, almost had his first interception in this game against the Texans, but had a great game. You mentioned back to full strength. So 81.1 Pro Football Focus grade, that's a career high. 79.8 against the run, that's a career high. They need more of that. 79.0 in coverage, second best in his career. 31 coverage snaps, only 21 yards allowed. Passer rating under 59. And it's good to see Greg Newsome back on the field, and just in the nick of time, because there's 3 guys, even more, for the Bengals that need to be covered.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And by the way, as we speak, I am building a post right now for, Baker Mayfield has been claimed by the Rams.
Yep.
So I didn't know if you had seen that yet or if you knew about that. But I am actually working on that as we speak. But that's interesting. It's interesting that Baker Mayfield will be going to a football team that that went to the Super Bowl last year and won it. And it's pretty incredible that he's going from a horrible football team to a pretty darn good football team. So he's headed out west, and we'll have to see how that goes for him.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. So ESPN did a poll of analytics staffers around the league about which team was the most analytically driven. So let's take a look. The NFL team that is most analytically advanced: Browns, number 1 by quite a bit. Ravens, Eagles. So those are 3 pretty good teams and pretty good franchises when you look at the Ravens and the Eagles. And you're going to see that as a recurring theme. Which team produces the highest level of analytic work? Browns number 1, Ravens number 2, Eagles number 3. Which team incorporates analytics into its decision making? Browns number 1, Eagles number 2, Ravens number 3. What I'm getting at is this is kind of the way football teams do things now. Analytics isn't necessarily, the negative that everybody thinks. It's what it is it gives you data to make your decisions. And the Ravens and the Eagles are 2 of the better teams in the NFL right now.
Yeah, it really can help you and come in handy. We know that this is the most analytics-based organization in the NFL. It starts at the top with Paul DePodesta, Moneyball, comes all the way down through Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. They go over everything all of the time. The whole coaching staff is geared that way. And we know that so many of their decisions that they make on the field and practice and everything else are based on those analytics. So that's not surprising at all. But, unfortunately for the Browns, they don't have a winning record right now.
Yep.
The other teams do. They hope that they can join those other teams at some point.
Right. And the point being, analytics is not something that works counter to football. It kind of augments the football. And so we'll keep an eye on that. And again, there's a lot of reasons. You played the first 11 games with what would be a backup quarterback. There's been a lot of injuries. And quite frankly, they just haven't gotten it done in some close games. That's the reason the Browns sit at 5-7.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think that they're going to look back and they're going to have some regrets. They're going to regret that they didn't beat the Jets. They're going to regret that they missed out on the Falcons game and some other games like that, because their defense really kind of was struggling along the way and not able to get those takeaways, and the special teams was struggling. But, some of those aspects of the team are coming together now. Now they need Deshaun to get up to speed. The problem is it could be too late for the Browns to make the playoffs this year, but they're not saying never just yet.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. We'll be right back with more Browns. We'll look ahead to the Bengals game. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Kevin Stefanski talking about the game plan and getting ready for the Bengals.
It's a team game. I understand, on offense, we have to play better than we played yesterday, and I expect us to. And in terms of putting together a plan, I really believe that's what you have to do every week. You got to look at, who you're facing, what gives them problems, and put together a game plan where you can have some success.
And Mary Kay, that's even a bigger challenge when it's just the second game with a guy you plan on being your quarterback for the next 10 or so years.
Yeah, it definitely is a challenge. The thing to remember about Deshaun is this football team was, humming along with Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback. They were really in sync with him from all different kinds of vantage points, from leadership, from offense, you name it. They kind of had their mojo down. Amari Cooper had really good timing with him. Donovan Peoples-Jones had good timing with him. So this is a sea change. This is a big shift for everyone, and they have to kind of get it together. They have to adjust. I mean, talk about a halftime adjustment. This is a half-season adjustment, and it's a big one. So absolutely, they 100% need all the help that they can get.
Yeah, there's no arguing the upside with Deshaun Watson as the quarterback is pretty significantly higher, but the question is how quickly can you get there without question. This is kind of interesting. So Joe Burrow defeated Patrick Mahomes last week. He's 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and he's 0-4 against the Cleveland Browns. And let's take a look at this. Joe Burrow's last 10 games. This is from CBS Sports. 8-2. His completion percentage above 70%, throwing for better than 8 yards of completion, and a 22-4 touchdown to interception ratio. Now, one of those two losses was against the Browns, but Joe Burrow is really playing at a high level.
Oh my gosh, he's playing at an incredibly high level, and that's why it's so hard to believe that he struggles against the Browns. But they play more of a simple drop back game, and they don't do a lot of fancy things with motion and different things like that kind of crossed up the Browns like against the Miami Dolphins. But if the Bengals were smart, they would incorporate some of those things in this game instead of just saying, we're going to do what we do well and we're going to go out and beat you with it, because that's not working for them. And, it'll be interesting to see if they can adjust in a hurry, because if they don't, I think that it's going to be more of the same. And I think Joe's going to struggle again against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, you're talking about motion, and, they refer to it as eye candy, things that kind of disguise what you're doing. And the Bengals are more of a, hey, this is what we do, try to stop us. And the Browns defense has been reasonably successful in doing that against them.
Yeah. You know what? It really has been a tale of two seasons when it comes to what offenses that the Browns defense sort of struggles against. I mean, they can handle, the simple drop back sort of an offense, but then if you start doing some of the fancier stuff, that's where they will get into the miscommunications, they will get into some of the blown coverages, and that's what the Bengals are going to want to make them do. They're going to want to make sure that all of a sudden one of those receivers is running free. But it's not going to be easy because, again, when you've got a young guy like Martin Emerson who has really come up the learning curve very quickly, and the game that he had against T. Higgins on that Halloween night, there are not a lot of holes in the secondary, and I think that this Browns defense continues to match up against the Bengals about as well as anyone.
When you look at keys to this, what are you looking at, and what do you think are going to be important punch points for the Browns to get a win?
Well, to get to Joe Burrow, to get him off of his mark, I mean, they've got to pressure the heck out of him. Myles Garrett has to have one of those games. He's got to get in the backfield. He's got to rake that ball out of there. Same thing with Jadeveon Clowney. And then maybe in the back end, some of those guys getting their hands on a pass or two. So I think defensively, they're just going to have to do what they do against Joe Burrow.
Offensively, do you expect what kind of wrinkles do you think get added for Deshaun Watson? Does he run the ball more? Is that one of the wrinkles?
Yeah, maybe you let him run the ball a little bit more, give him an opportunity to use those legs and make plays with his legs a little bit and get some confidence going that way and really try to hurt them from that standpoint. And maybe, some shorter passes and, let the playmakers do their thing instead of trying to take too many shots that he might not be ready for right now.
All right, before we go, this is we had alluded to it earlier. Lamar Jackson has suffered a PCL strain, so that's posterior cruciate ligament. That's the third of the ligament. That one's the one that's inside your knee joint. That was during Sunday's win over the Broncos. It usually sidelines a player from between 1 and 3 weeks. Not likely that he will play against the Steelers. Short week as the Browns play them Saturday. But again, this is a guy that's your franchise quarterback. You want to make sure he's healthy if you're the Ravens. And the Ravens, they found a way to win when he got knocked out early against the Broncos.
Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens to the Ravens and how long he's going to be out and how that impacts the game next week. Because if you remember, the Ravens were the #1 seed in the AFC at 8-3 last year. Lamar got hurt and they lost their final 6 games of the season. That's why you can never say never, because you have no idea what's going to happen with the other teams that you are competing against, and anything can happen, and sometimes stranger things do happen.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you check her out. Pages of the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily, straight ahead. Sports4CLE will be right back.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Browns getting ready for an important one against the Bengals at 5-7. Need that one to keep their playoff hopes alive. Deshaun Watson talked about getting back on the field.
I heard something walking off the field, and I guess it was 700 plus days since I played. So Yeah, it's not going to be perfect, especially playing in December football where, guys are week 14, week 13, and this is week 1 for me. So it was fun, though. It was awesome to be able to get out there with my teammates. The defense played a heck of a game, got some touchdowns for us. Special teams with DPJ, the big punt return was big for us to kind of shift the momentum, and that's what we needed at the time. And that's why it's a team sport, and, we just got to keep pushing forward.
Jake? So what do you make of the constant booing for us now?
I mean, they're supposed to boo. I'm a Cleveland Brown now, and we're on the road, so they're supposed to boo.
Let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. And Casey, the rust was real. I kind of downplayed it a little bit. It was more significant than I thought it would be.
I think most of us did. I didn't expect to be that level of rust. I thought they would work through it and they would be able to do some stuff early to get his feet underneath of him and get him in rhythm. And they just were never able to. It looked like they were starting over every time they got the ball. And, we saw flashes. You saw his natural ability to evade and keep his eyes downfield. You saw those things. But it just, when he was getting sped up and things were coming at him too fast, he wasn't able to process as quick as he needed to. And it showed up in all of those, crow hops that he was throwing, just coming up short.
And yeah, the processing, if you think about it, he's in a new system, so he's got to think through. He can't – it's not the Texan system that he's used to. It's a new system that he hasn't. So it will be a work in progress. How important is it that he figure it out pretty darn quickly? Because there's a couple of teams in the Bengals and the Ravens that they need to beat.
Yeah, in terms of, we're talking about running the table, it's paramount. If we're talking about going 5-0, then, yeah, he's got to hit the ground in a hurry. But I don't think that that's the Browns' overall thought process on this. It's a long-term play. He's not just their quarterback, for the remaining 5. It's for the next 4 after. So they want to build him. They want him to get his confidence up and just hit the layups, do the easy things, so that when it comes time that he has to do the hard things and go off script, that it comes naturally. Because right now it looks herky-jerky out there. But I think, just over time, as long as the Browns can lean on who they are as a run team, allow him to grow into the offense instead of just putting it all on him and expecting him to be Superman.
Well, and the other thing is Kevin Stefanski has to figure out, okay, this is what he's doing well. Let's play to those strengths.
Yeah, we can only hope that, another week of preparation, reviewing the game tape, kind of hopefully they have some good discourse and they're able to figure out what's the best path forward to get him to be the Deshaun of old, because that's the entire goal of this whole thing. You know what I mean? You just need to get him to play at his level. And Water finds this level, so over time that'll happen. But the Browns need to kind of speed that up in areas they can, and that's just making it easy where they can make it easy.
All right, Pro Football Focus, or Pro Football Talk, rather, talked about the first game for Watson and what they saw.
In terms of his on-field play, he was bad, and he was not good. So that's what I expected after him not playing, as we've been saying, for 700 days. I mean, 12 of 22 for 131 yards. This is the one interception he threw right there in the middle of the end zone. Just didn't see the safety at all who's playing in the middle of the field, and I don't know who he's throwing to there. So, look, I mean, this is a move that the Browns made, not just for 2022, but for, you'd like to think for them as an organization, the next 10 years, right? This is the franchise quarterback that the Browns have not really had since Bernie Kosar. And there's been a lot of guys who have come in and gone from that building that have not been able to be that. So, I mean, people were right now to Cleveland like, oh man, Deshaun Watson's got to improve quickly for the Browns to have chances. The Browns season has been shot since he agreed to the 11-game suspension. So I don't really know what everybody's expecting, but this to me has always been the lost year for the Browns. Can Deshaun Watson get himself to playing at least a mediocre level so he can go into the offseason with some positive energy? That, to me, is what the Browns have to figure out over these last few games.
And it really is a strange situation overall. He won't talk about any of the non-football matters on advice of lawyers and clinical experts.
And, Casey, I'm going to push back on that last part. And folks that watch the show know I respect Mike Florio, but he's not supposed to talk about that stuff. He's supposed to talk about football. All that other stuff now, he's got to focus on football. And I think the point, the Browns probably viewed it as a stretch when they found out it was an 11-game suspension to keep competitive this year.
Yeah, but even with that in consideration, if this team just hit their layups earlier in the year, we're not feeling the same way. They left so many wins on the table in those first 6 that it's like if you just hit 2 of those, we have a different, whole outlook going towards these last 5 games. The Browns need him to have his blinders on. He can't be worrying about the off-field stuff. He has to worry about the on-field stuff right here, right now, because it's happening. These are live bulls that are flying, and you can see the game was coming at him fast last week, and it takes a while for that to slow down. So that's what they need him to do, and to do that, they're going to need 100% focus out of him.
Yep, and they're also going to need the defense and the special teams to play pretty well. Kevin Stefanski talked about the importance. He's been really patient with this return game. Paid off with the Donovan Peoples-Jones punt return for a touchdown against Texans. But he talked about the importance of being patient with the return game.
I just think we're trying to be consistent and trying to get good special teams play. So yesterday, Donovan did a great job getting vertical. The guys did a great job blocking, and he ran away from people and did a really nice job. But I think the big thing, Daryl, to your point, is we just got to play consistently. And in the special teams game, that's coverage and return phases. It's field goal, being able to be consistent there. I think that's what you saw yesterday.
And they're going to need it again and again and again.
Yeah, he's not wrong, but I think it's easy for him to say, be patient, because now they've broke one. If you're preaching patience and you're still getting nothing out of your return game, then that's going to ring hollow. But the fact that they finally broke one, and Donovan had been close the last couple games, you could see it building, and he finally got it. And he's a different type of runner, like as far as his return game. He's not a quick twitch, short burst type athlete. It's a long stride. So he's got to make the first 2 guys miss. After he gets those first 2 guys behind him, he's able to hit an alley. He's a long strider and can get good speed. He's not a burner, but he's 4'4", and for a big guy at that. So it's all about getting him into an alley, and he's able to, if he can keep his feet, I thought he was going to go down on Sunday. But he was able to keep his feet and hit the open field, and he was gone from there.
Just need to be able to flip the field and get some field position when it is available. You take it to the house, it's even better. Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll talk a little bit about the defense coming up. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah talked about Tony Fields, who had a really good game defensively for the Browns against Texans.
I knew when me and Tone came in that he was going to be a guy that took off at some point. By just the way he played in college, I thought he played pretty similar to me on this tape. With his aggression and his ability to get from point A to point B and just be instinctive. So he's shown that the last 2 games and really all season on special teams doing his thing. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of that. I really am.
And Casey, that kind of dovetails into an article that you wrote. 3 defenders that balled out against the Texans, and we'll run through them and then we'll go through them. Number 3, Grant Delpit. Number 2, Sione Takitaki, who late in that game tore his ACL and is lost for the year. And number 1, the aforementioned Tony Fields. So let's start with Tony Fields. That's a guy, draft pick that just hadn't been able to get on the field because he'd been banged up in one way or another.
Yeah, early in his rookie season, it was a sickness that was attributed to the reason he couldn't get on the field. It was kind of a mystery. I figured he'd be a special teams player from day one. It didn't work out. But as we see, we got to be more patient. We expect the world out of these rookies. He was a 5th-round pick, and now starting to pay dividends, And now it's through injuries and stuff that he's getting on the field. But now that he's on the field, we're seeing that he can perform and he can be a plus player. And that should only go up. And he's, these last few weeks, as the linebacker core is still ailing.
Sione Takitaki, when given the opportunity, played really well. I would assume they will try to find a way to re-sign him to a decent deal. But he played middle linebacker. He played strong side linebacker. Wherever you plugged him in, he seemed to be effective.
So I think that the Browns, and I don't know what the market will be, especially coming off the ACL, which really I feel bad for him. I mean, he was having such a great year, and he sets a physical tone for this defense. And for him to go down, we'll see how the Browns pivot from here. But the reality is, Talk's a very vital piece of this defense, and I think it would be smart to re-sign him if humanly possible.
And then Grant Delpit, a guy that, as the season has gotten, is starting to kind of play better and better.
Yeah, he's a maligned player. He's a player that, obviously his rookie year just goes away to the Achilles, and then he comes back, and he showed some flashes last year that we thought he was going to build upon, but just like the rest of this defense, came out of the gates just struggling. But over these last 6 games, man, he's been tremendous in run support. I mean, he's a missile out there, and he has the want to. I mean, he goes for it. And just on that 4th and goal play where he just folded Hairston on that flat route, man, that was a thing of beauty. And that was instinctual. That wasn't the way it was designed. He came off his man to do that, So he's showing instincts out there. We got to hope that his back-end coverage starts to match his run game support. And if so, you have yourself a really nice piece of this defense.
All right, this from the Bleacher Report. NFL teams building momentum for the 2023 season. The Browns. Questions remain about defense coordinator Joe Woods. 18th-ranked defense has underperformed given its talent. Back-to-back wins could mark the start of a late-season run that creates a ton of momentum heading into 2023. At that point, that's probably the game plan.
Yeah, it scares me. I think you get put in that Zach Taylor zone to where what if this defense just plays out of their minds these last 5 games? I still feel that you have to move on from Joe Woods. We've seen this movie before. This is exactly what we watched last year. We watched the defense just become monsters over the second half, and then what happened? Just fell flat at the beginning of the season. And that's what this team needed. The team needed the defense to come out of the gates because then the offense can find its way. And then you don't lose that Atlanta game. You don't lose the Jets game if the defense shows up, but they didn't. And now that's the reason you're in this hole. So, of course, you want to see them perform as best of their abilities as possible these last 5 games. But I don't think that it changes the outcome of what you need to do in the offseason to get this defense to the next level next year.
Yeah, I would agree. I want a more aggressive defense. And when you have a quote-unquote elite quarterback, you're probably more willing to do that. All right, this from Dog Pound Daily. 5 reasons the Browns defense has underperformed, and we'll run through them. Myles Garrett, bad driving habits have hurt the team. Obviously, he's been banged up. Number 4, Andrew Berry failed to address defensive tackle. Number 3, Denzel Ward's season has been a disaster. Number 2, expectations for JOK out of whack. And number 1, Browns have strong safeties but need free safety help. When I look at those, the 2 that really stand out, the defensive tackle, they got to reevaluate what they're looking for and how they scout them, I think. And then the safeties. You have really good safeties, but you don't have anybody that plays center field, and you need a center fielder.
I want to start by saying that is an excellent list. All those are very, very key problems. But the safety one is always perplexing to me. It's because they went and got a whole bunch of guys that do the same thing. What did you think would happen? You know, you want someone to develop into that free safety. Well, that just hasn't happened. So you're just rotating guys back there who are suboptimal at that facet of the game. But you got a bunch of guys that can come up in the box and make a play. Well, in this league, you have to be you can't just be one-dimensional. And that's where they found themselves. They don't have a true center fielder. And, you know, I get the theory that, you know, even with like Richard LeCount, like that's a guy who in theory could develop into that guy, but he just never did. So they're going to have to spend more of a priority getting that guy in the building and then making this defense what it possibly could be on the back end. And for that to happen, you're going to have to let one of these strong safeties go.
And I think you could say the same thing about defensive tackle. You know, they looked at a certain skill set, and it's like, yeah, but don't invite teams to run all over you, because they'll take up on, as you see, they will take you up on that invitation.
Yeah, we broke several tables in the offseason just pounding and asking for a run-stuffing defensive tackle. And those cries were not met with any action. We don't have that guy, you know. And they've been comfortable spending a mid-round pick on a defensive tackle. And it's okay if you hit and they just haven't hit. So we're just rotating a bunch of guys who honestly probably wouldn't make an NFL roster on another team. But this defensive tackle room is bottom of the league. It is what it is. So they got to pick which one or two guys to keep going forward and clean house with the rest, or, you know, revamp the whole thing. You got to hope they don't have to do that because they don't have the draft assets to do so. But that's what these, you know, final games are about, identifying who you're willing to build around and who's expendable. And if you're expendable, you got to let them go.
Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. We'll look a little bit closer into the Bengals-Browns matchup. Also, take a look at where Baker Mayfield has ended up. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports for CLE. Take a look. So Baker Mayfield was claimed by the LA Rams. See, $1.35 million contract. Mayfield expected to fly to LA. Could play Thursday night in the Rams game against the Las Vegas Raiders. And it's important to note, Matthew Stafford is on the IR. Just put there the starting quarterback for the Rams. John Wolford, their number 2 guy, dealing with a neck injury. So there's a real chance that Sean McVay could end up playing Baker Mayfield some, and that would be interesting, Casey Kinnamon.
Yeah, I'm here for it. You know, I think it's going to be good theater. When it came down to it, when he asked for his release and they granted it, and I knew he was going to hit waivers, the Rams were on the very short list of teams that could be interested, because it needed a special ingredient of things to happen. One was you needed a team that had a decent evaluation of Baker coming out. Then you needed a coach with an ego. You needed a coach who looks at players like, I could fix him. You know, so if they had a decent evaluation on Baker coming out and McVay's looking at him like, I can get something out of this, And so I think this is the best possible scenario for Baker Mayfield. You're going to end up in a big marketplace.
Yep.
And you have decent weapons, not overly. They're obviously wounded with Cooper Kupp on the IR, but McVay, you'll put him in some positions to attempt to make plays.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's going to be on Baker.
Yeah, and again, we'll see how it plays out for him. But I would expect him to get some time in the last 5-6 games here for the LA Rams. All right, Week 14 power rankings, best team stats. So Browns check in at number 23. Eagles 1, Chiefs 2, Bills 3, Browns 23. Rank first in player rush yards after contact. Nick Chubb leads the NFL after contact per rush, 2.6. Kareem Hunt is 16th after contact, 2.03. Cleveland remains one of the best tackle-breaking rushing offenses in the league. And you know what? Figures to get even better when you have a mobile quarterback in Deshaun Watson.
A mobile quarterback, one that can give you different looks. You can run from different things now. You're going to see more runs out of the gun. We might see more. We might see some pistol action. We definitely saw some RPO looks, so they're going to be able to give you a myriad of looks and, the base level of skill with the running backs, and they're going to get their opportunities. So, yeah, I expect those numbers to stay what they are and then to be number one and breaking tackles and yards after contact. I will say that we saw a little good surge out of Kareem Hunt this last week, and I'm hoping they're able to build on that. Chubb is what Chubb is. He's excellent. But if Kareem's able to bring that kind of juice when he spells Chubb, I think that they could be in for some big numbers over this stretch.
Yeah, and you know what? All they need is Deshaun Watson to hit a couple of chunk plays, a couple of big ones, and that's fine. He doesn't have to throw for 400. If you hit a couple of big ones and score, a couple of touchdowns, that'll just open things up for that run game. Defenses played well. They played well they played outstanding, lights out against a lesser opponent in the Texans. Played pretty well against the Buccaneers. This is a whole different challenge in the Bengals, though. Chase is back. Mixon probably going to be back. How concerned are you that the Bengals haven't had a lot of success against this Browns defense?
Yeah, and that being said, you should still be very concerned because of how explosive the Bengals are. But this is the rare instance where we're talking about, they can't stop the run. They need defensive tackles. Well, this is a team that you have to make run. They don't run on their own. This is a team that forgets to have a running back at times, and this is where the Browns match up well. This is where that philosophy of building a defense actually pays off. Because the Bengals are a straight drop back team. They're not even a play action team or a bootleg team. You're looking at someone who's going to take 5 and 7 steps and they're going to try to beat you with their receivers. Well, that's what the Browns are built to defend. With Myles Garrett, with Clowney, with an excellent assortment of cornerbacks, they could provide a big problem for the Bengals. But the Bengals do have the weapons that can beat even perfect defense. Jamar Chase is that guy, and he missed the last game. And, he's had this one circled on his calendar the entire time. The on-site comments, and he was talking about Denzel and Greg in the offseason. Well, say hello to Martin Emerson. We got another guy for you too. So I think this is the kind of matchup that should get you excited.
All right, before I let you go, what do you think some of the wrinkles that we see from Deshaun Watson in Kevin Stefanski's offense are against the Bengals this week?
I think you're going to let him run a little more to get his confidence up, to loosen up the defense. I think you almost have to. You saw it a couple times where he was in between, should I run or pass, and he'd pull up at the last second to pass, which that's what you want your quarterback to do, keep your eyes upfield and attempt to make plays. But until that cohesion's there and that timing's there, let him get a couple easy yards, let him loosen up the defense with his legs, and then hopefully we can exploit them later with some big chunk plays.
The other thing is I'm curious to see how he and David Njoku work together. Tight end is a huge part of what Deshaun Watson can do.
Yeah, he loves those seam plays with tight ends, and Njoku's the best athlete he's ever played with at that position. And as long as David can stay healthy and stay on the field, I think it'd be a big plus for Deshaun. And hopefully they can develop that rapport, because that could be a dangerous weapon, especially in the red zone.
Casey Kinnamon from Dawg Pound Daily, as always, man. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Casey.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, Casey Kinnamon, make sure you check him out. pages of Dog Pound Daily. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.